Good day. I love that this morning I was like, oh, I need to get ready. I need to sass up. And you're like, let's take an extra half hour. You know what I did for that half hour? I
Not,
didn't sass up. I worked on my
not that. Yeah.
sales page. I was like, I need to make it compatible for my phone. So this whole
Mhm.
time I've just been on the computer making it compatible.
I've been just in like prep mode and computer mode too. That's just like what
We're
I've been.
always twinning.
We are. That's what makes
Today's
it so
the
special.
release of Black Friday stuff.
I know. I'm excited about it.
Yeah, it's really fun. I don't have any attachment to the outcome. I've enjoyed the process, and it will be interesting to see which one people focus on, like where most of the cells go,
Yeah.
and then like looking at how I can refine it for next year. So I'm really excited.
Yeah. Yeah.
One of the things that you're really good at that I'm really excited about registering for your irresistible Black Friday thing.
Yeah.
I will post this podcast tomorrow so that maybe we can get some extra action in there. But the thing that you're really good at is aligned clients. I'm
Mm,
noticing that that's one of the things that I have struggled with. And part of me thinks it's because, like, for the past 3 years, my evolution has been off the hook.
yeah. I was gonna say that, like, is it that you're not good at it, or is it actually that you're just changing? And so what's happening is I think right now you're kind of landing and starting to crystallize into exactly who you are and who you want to be serving. So I think as soon as that clicks, it's just going to be super easy.
Yeah, and it has, like, for me, it's not like a flick of the switch, right? And I wonder if
Yeah.
that's part of my human sign. But it's more like, oh yeah, here it comes. Here it comes. It's more.
Yes.
I started to say this to my husband, and I thought of you. I said, I want you to read through my new sales page for E10X and kind of see if it's compassionate enough. What? And then I was like, wait. I am not a cheerleader, but let's see if we can get it so that people can read it and see that it's about them instead of a fucking sales page. Because I feel like my sales page is just like, and it is kind of matter of fact. Here you
Yeah.
go. Here's what it
Yeah.
is. I have lots of testimonials, but I was thinking, oh, I need to do that. But
You
one
know what's
thing,
interesting about compassion? I just want to throw this in because, it's like sometimes it's like two words that feel like your main word and then your Venus. They're two words that like they're just so obviously like blendy. But you actually there's a little bit of like polarity built in, right? Though you're basically the compassionate revolutionary, right? And so that's the piece. You're primarily the revolutionary. You're primarily that sacred rebel. And that's the energy you lead with, right? It's just you want to make sure that that revolution is just super grounded in that compassion. And it's not like you're going to all of a sudden be like a mush, because that's just not like who you are.
oh my God. So that just, yeah, that. So I'm always like, the whole reason I am a revolutionist is because I'm compassionate.
Yeah,
So there's no escaping it.
there's right.
Okay. And so therefore, my message is always going to have that underlining compassion. Like, I'm getting this shit done for you. Like, it's not for
Right.
you.
Right. And there's the other piece of it is like when you're speaking your truth, you are speaking your truth to people. Like when you're telling people like it is, that is an act of compassion,
Yeah.
right? It's like, I'm telling you this because I legitimately care, because I legitimately see you suffering and you don't need to, right? That is compassion.
Yeah. And we've spent a lot of time like identifying who I'm talking to. And it really has changed the dynamic for me because I always attract who I need to at that time. But
Mm.
really, like one of my taglines now, it's after yesterday working on my sales page, is enlightenment to evolution.
Ooh, ooh.
Because I am finding that a lot of people think enlightenment is the end game. And it's not. Like that is
Right.
just the beginning. That's like flicking on the light in the room. And now it's time to get to work. Like there's a whole slew of shit that happens after enlightenment to be able to take that um what you have experienced in that awareness and apply it to get tangible meanings, tangible stuff in this three dimension. And so I'm like, I really want to start talking to people that believe that they have reached enlightenment. Like, oh yeah,
Mm.
I have that enlightenment aspect of me, but tend to still be chasing it. Like they think that they've reached it, but then they're still looking for it.
Yeah. Well, I think like that speaks to our addiction to personal growth. But also, I think that there's a lot of confusion for people who have set, like, have made their life path. Okay, I want to reach enlightenment. Why is my life so shitty? Why can't I keep a relationship? Why can't I pay my bills? And I think one of the things that you do so beautifully is you take these very cosmic things, but you're always very grounded. And there are a lot of people who kind of do this spiritual work and they're not.
My head centers. I have
Mm.
defined head centers. I think that because most of my clients come in and they don't have defined head centers. And I was
Most
like, get
people
back
have
down
open
here.
head, I know. Yeah.
You do?
I have an open head, but a defined ajna. I'm so ajna. I'm very, very ajna based. That's in human design.
Surprise.
Yes, I know. And I love my logical part. It's this interesting thing where, like, I've had to learn how to really, really, and I'm still maybe forever in the process of learning how to really honor the part of me that's like actually not super magical, like just actually really
Oh,
practical and very grounded and very strategic. It's just when I forget to tap into the magic, everything just goes haywire and I start spinning out. The thing that actually keeps that logic part grounded for me is connecting it to something bigger.
ooh, you touched on something really cool because for me, it's really been, I've always loved my logical, get shit done,
Mhm.
that whole side. Merging into the cosmic has been pretty easy for me. But what I see a lot of clients struggle with is em- embracing logic into their into their being to proceed forward with steps, which you have. Like your logical side brings in actionable steps. And I think that's what logical sides do. They're like, oh, I have to do shit in this life. I can't
Right.
just sit around and hope, wish, and pray for shit to change for me. I actually have to take action.
Yeah. There's been a narrative painted that all we have to do is sit and, like
Fucking meditate
manifest and not
away.
take right.
Uh,
Yeah.
it's so untrue.
It's so untrue. And you know what it is? And I say this all the time, right? When I talk about the success codex and people will come to me for a reading and they'll say, well, who am I supposed to work with? What am I supposed to offer? And I'm like, if this system told you that, and if human design told you that, and astrology actually told you that, then those systems are your authority. And the truth of the matter is, we all want someone to come and fucking tell us what to do, right? And so every marketer knows that. And so they paint like whether it's a program or whether it's these systems to be this thing that, like, well, it's going to give you all the answers. But no, if the answers are not originating from you first and then we refine them with those systems, then you're just giving your power away, you
Right.
know?
And I
And I
see
hate
so
it.
many
I'm
people.
always correcting my clients. I mean, that's one thing that I'm so like, no, this is not here to tell you what to do. Do
I
your
love
work.
that. We have that so much in common
Yeah.
because I'm like, it's not me. I'm not doing the shit.
Right.
I'm not doing the work for you.
Right.
And the method is only here to help guide you on your way to what you need, what you're doing and how to create things. It's really it's really disturbing to me how many people market to that they're like them being the solution.
Yeah. It's
And
just
like
it's
taking
more of the
away,
old. It's more of the old and ego
don't you think
based.
that shit's going?
Everybody knows that it's done. I mean, here's the thing, like there's this other side of it, right? Like I don't know if you're like this, but sometimes I will just buy a program because I love the person leading it and I don't even give a shit what the program is. So like that's there too. But it's dangerous to start saying that you are their solution.
I
You know
know.
what I mean? It's
I've been
very
taught from the
enmeshed.
beginning,
It's
you're
like
never,
codependent. You become codependent with your business, right? Because then if the client gets results, it's about you. And if they don't, it's about you.
and if they leave, it's about you,
Everything is about you. If they pay
right?
you, if they don't want to pay you.
That's just a destiny for failure or cults.
Yeah.
I really believe that there's so much that is like out the door.
Yeah.
Like that these old marketing strategies and shit, it only
Yeah.
feeds people's insecurities.
Yeah.
We were talking this morning about the snarky inner critic, and I used to have it so bad. It would linger.
Yeah.
Um, and especially when we're launching stuff, right? Like that
Yeah.
self-doubt. Somebody was on our E10X call last week. Somebody was saying how they got all their systems ready for Black Friday, and then they started hearing that voice. Like, nobody's going to buy it. You did this before and it
Mhm.
didn't work. It's not going to work this time.
Mhm.
And like, how do we change that? Well, 5D prosperity.
Mhm.
The thing too is that like basing our future on a past that doesn't exist,
Yeah.
it's a tough one. Our subconscious is such a bitch.
And
But
it's like just trying to keep us safe though, right? It's like, oh, I don't want you to get hurt, so I'm gonna like disappoint you before you even try. Don't
right.
try.
So here's one thing. Let's go cosmic.
Okay.
So we know that the law of attraction and action is your subconscious creates emotions and feelings, which create a frequency, and that frequency is sent to the 5D. The 5D matches it and does this, right? So
Hmm.
I think a lot of women, like when we're talking about that snarky inner critic, and let's specifically talk about like launches, right? So, like, you put out the doors open, and to prepare yourself, you're talking to yourself about nobody signing up, right? So that's a frequency that's sent out. A lot of women get stuck, I think, in that urge to feed that through
Yeah.
fighting it, right? So it's like, oh my God, I'm thinking that, I can't be thinking that. And when you're feeding that and saying, I can't be thinking that way, I can't be doing that, you're feeding that frequency of fear, anxiety, overwhelm. And then that's the frequency. It's not the thought that
Yes.
the 5D is going through and going, hey, okay, she doesn't want people to sign up. It's that fear, anxiety, and overwhelm. So when you're like, afraid that you're thinking that shit, you're just creating more of it. So
You're
it's
still
that
thinking it.
diversion and moving that attention to going, oh, that doesn't matter.
Yep.
The
Yep.
outcome doesn't matter. I'm going to be alive whether or not I sell any of them or all of them.
That's
I'm
what
going to
it
be alive.
is.
My life will be exactly what I make it.
Right. And it's these attachments, right? Like I think the more attached we are to the outcome, the more pressure we have, the higher the stakes, and then the bigger the doubts. And so, I think not I think, a question that I'm asked a lot and something that I think about for myself, because I go through the same things,
Mhm.
obviously, right? That's what we were talking about today. It's okay, but what do you do when that thought comes in? Right. And
That's it.
I honestly believe that 75%, maybe more, of the battle is recognizing that that thought is not you,
Yes.
right? That that thought is not true. Like we can't do anything with it if we believe it. So we have to create a little bit of separation and say, okay, that's an interesting thought coming from some part of myself that's not the real me, because if it was the real me, it would feel expansive and it would feel true and it would feel open and it would feel loving, right? If it feels constricting, if it's fear-based, if it's limiting, if it's mean, that's all ego, that's all fear,
That's
right?
all you.
So
That's all your physical self.
that's the physical, right? Like that part. And it, listen, it serves a purpose. It gives us an opportunity to remember to choose to be our true selves again. But I was moving through this, and the tendency is either to, like you said, right, we want to fight it and stop it and bypass it, but that's still requiring our energy to push it
Mhm.
down, or we sit there and we beat ourselves up about it, which then also just keeps on feeding it. And so for me, it's actually this process of acceptance. Like, okay, I accept the fact that I'm feeling this feeling, and I come in with like compassion, right? Here's your word, right? Come in with so much compassion for myself. It's like, wow, you're really like, there's a part of you that's really afraid right now. That makes sense. I know maybe you've been disappointed. Maybe you don't want to be disappointed. It's okay. We've got this. And just like you just said, right? Like, we're going to survive if nobody buys your Black Friday sale, right? Like, we're going to live. Life will go on. You can still make hundreds of thousands of dollars next year. None of it means anything else.
Ooh, not attaching a meaning to it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But
It
also,
really
of
is.
course, doing the PSS, right?
Yeah.
Like these other, yeah, like
I
the tools for finding prosperity too.
I used to stress the fuck out when I would do launches.
Mm,
Get so stressed out. Like if I was doing
yeah,
this Black Friday thing, I would get so uptight
yeah.
and I would worry. And one time a coach was talking about manifesting and the law of attraction. It was like a January class I took. And she mentioned that, and this tripped me up for a long time. She
Mm,
said, if you go through the process and you don't get what you want, then you need to look back and see where you didn't believe that it was possible.
okay.
Okay, so that shit kept me stuck. That advice kept me stuck forever
Ooh,
because then I'm focusing on what's happening inside my brain and not reviewing the process. So the
yep,
process is the aligned action, right? That's like, oh, well, I put this out and this vocabulary is working. This got
right,
more email opens. This was resonating with the prospects. This was not resonating with the ones that didn't sign up. Like
right,
it was taking me inside to judge what my brain was physically thinking. So
right,
then I would get caught up and go, oh, that one time. And then I would obsess about
right,
not thinking bad thoughts. And then, of course, what are you going to do? Your brain is always, it's the pink elephant. Don't think about a pink elephant. You're going to
right,
think about that goddamn pink elephant. So
right,
she's like, don't think bad thoughts. So then all I'm thinking is how I have been thinking all these bad thoughts. And then it
right.
would like, I
Feeds
would
it.
obsess about it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's like, yeah, go.
You bring up a really good point, because I think that, like, actually what we have to do is it's a balance of really objectively looking at our strategies and how things are performing, right? Like looking at the numbers on the one side, and the other side, it's not about it. We have to keep like a soft awareness about those thoughts, but it's not a stalking and hunting them. I mean, sometimes I've used that language, but I think it can get misconstrued to something like you said, where it's like, no, you don't want to obsess about it. It's it is a balance. Listen, there's mastery that's involved about learning how to notice your thoughts and actually let them go, so that you have the space to choose a new thought. And it's not actually bypassing. You're getting yourself into the frequency where it's actually true.
Right.
There's an art to it.
Yeah. And I think one, it's really finding a mentor that resonates with you, that you're going to be able to spend a significant amount of time with. It's not about trying to figure this shit out on your own. And it's
No.
about listening to how people are presenting the arguments or the concepts or whatever. And
Hmm.
then committing, like truly looking at an investment, not as a 3-month program, but a long-term investment. People can come into E10X and get massive transformation the first time. But I'm going to tell you, the people that go through it again, those are the ones that I see significant income coming into. And
Hmm.
then like the time span, they have to be able to hear it from me over and over and over and
Yeah.
be able to release that, know the methods and all that. I think
Yeah.
when we're in desperation, we're seeking outside validation and
Yep.
outside information to solve our internal problems. And so we're jumping from one mentor to another and another. And I don't, I think you too have done, like I have been with my mentor for a very long time, and I will
Hmm.
until he exits his physical reality, and I can still work with him,
Hmm.
right? Like he's more than this
Yeah.
physical body.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
so many people will jump around, and I'm like,
Yeah.
find like a good mentor. They have to be in front of you, let's say spiritually, air quote, I'm going to do air quote spiritually, right? They have to know more. They need
Hmm.
to have more wisdom than you.
Hmm.
So I think that's just so important. I think people look at the external circumstances that one has first, and
Yeah.
then they're like, I want that. I want that $4 million year. So I'm going to sign up with that instead of looking at the alignment of the souls and where that
Yeah.
aligns and being willing to um, move forward. I'm on a tangent. I'm just going to say one last thing.
Yeah. 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 Go for it. It's good.
So I think about like I love watching TikToks that are in like tarot readers, energy readers, even like just amazing teachers and educators out in the world. I
Hmm.
follow a museum curator. Um, So I watch them. Some of them have millions of followers, some of them have hundreds of thousands of followers. And I watch them and I think about Facebook and how it has created this facade of what success should look like. So
Mm.
there are these women on there with their professional photo shoots and fake fur coats or whatever. And
Hmm.
although this is what it's supposed to be, right? They're attracting entrepreneurs. When I go onto TikTok, I witness this beautiful dichotomy to that where people are showing up in their own home. And you'll see me do this all the time where I'm like, this is my office. I don't have $1 million office. I don't want
Hmm.
a $1 million home. I want
Hmm.
the home that I live in. I never
Hmm.
intend on leaving here unless it's to
Hmm.
go to Scotland, right? Like, this is it. This is where I'm going to die. Or what, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
So it's like, I love that there are creators over on that platform that are real transparent and are like, this is my office. This is what it looks like.
Yeah.
This is how I spend my day. I'm sitting in their kitchen, or, it's not like they have this fabulous 50K um, kitchen. They have their kitchen
Yeah. Yeah.
because not everyone fucking needs to be flying around the world, and like, not everyone's success looks the same.
Right. I think that the trend, this is my opinion, I think we're trending towards authenticity again. I think that people uh have bought into enough shitty programs and enough like make believe image that you're talking about, right? It's like the influencer thing, right? Like buying into this image and realizing that first of all, just because they have that doesn't mean that they can teach you how to have that. And second of all, there are people who get that because they think that's what they want. And then they realize it's not what they wanted, but they bought into it because that's what they're being fed. And I believe that, a few things are happening with Pluto and Aquarius, with the age of Aquarius, with the human design 2027, like big shift that's happening, that's coming up, which we're already obviously in the shadow of because it's a 400-year thing. We're moving towards it's like an individualism it's individual, but it's collective, right? It's a collective full of individuals, not a collective full of sheep where everyone believes the same thing, right? A thriving collective is made up of lots of individual people, not cookie cutter, not carbon copies, not everyone has to do it the same way. We just have to be ourselves. And the frequency, so like to me, there are very few frequencies as powerful as the frequency of truth.
Mm,
We
good.
can feel the truth, right? I think it was the book Power versus Force where they talked about muscle testing, right?
Oh,
Where people, right? People would like put on headphones and listen to someone either speaking the truth or a lie in a language that the listener didn't even know. And the muscles tested weak when they were listening to a lie, and the muscles tested strong when they were listening to a truth, and they didn't even understand the language. We know truth, and truth is part of authenticity, right? Like being ourselves, that's us being our truth. This is big for me. I'm glad that we're talking about this because I have been like, I spent a long time really struggling with my relationship with social media because I had in my mind that, like, my feed had to look a certain way and everything, I'm just tired of that. I just
you
don't
know,
want to do it anymore.
this came up for me this week because somebody came across my feed that said, if you're going to do a January offer, which I do, I am, right?
Yeah.
E10X opens.
Yeah.
Um, you have to have amazing standout graphics. And I
Why?
was like, oh, that's so true. The market's so saturated and everyone. And then I was like, fuck, Lynn, do you need? And I that's that like, oh shoot. And then I'm like, I am not, and I never will have been a professional. I see these beautiful photo shoots. I've never been that person that's like, I need a professional photo shoot. And girl, I have a degree in photography.
I personally love photo shoots, but because they're fun, not because I need them. But
Right.
yeah.
But also the thing is that my whole thing is that you don't have to spend millions and you don't have to be something you're not.
Yes.
You can start a business on zero. You don't need a professional photo shoot. While it's fun, I agree. If I find a photographer that I really enjoy, or if my husband snaps me out wherever we are,
Hmm.
I like to put them up. But my profile photo is a selfie.
Yeah.
I'm
And it's
like, this
you.
is
And it's
right,
you. That's your brand though. Right?
right.
To me, like
It's
you
yeah,
I don't, maybe you intentionally, but like your brand is this is me. No
yeah.
apologies. This is who I am,
Because
you
I was
know?
that person that was like, you got to dress for success. You got to look this
Hmm.
way. You got to do
Hmm.
these certain things. You got to have everything. I was a perfectionist beyond belief. It was like the
Mm.
thing that kept me trapped for so long. And I'm like,
Hmm.
I don't want women to think that you have to do air quote all these things in order to see multiple six.
Yeah.
You know,
And one of my mentors who I've been with for a long time, I mean, she always talks about how everyone that she learned from told her she needed X number of followers, and she made her first multi six with 700 followers. So I just think that I am one place where I am stalking myself is I am stalking the rules that I have agreed to or made up about what it takes to be successful. Because for every rule I've made, there are thousands of people who will prove the opposite, who have
right?
proven the opposite.
Here's the thing, all that fucking bullshit is social media driven by marketing coaches
Yes.
and business coaches. The business coaching industry is 97% full of shit because you look
Yep.
at any successful entrepreneur out there in your hometown, like we have this beautiful small batch meadery, this place that makes mead, which is like an alcoholic beverage.
Mhm.
Small, delightful, excellent mead, making it. She's not on social media every day, like cra- cracking shit down. We have a local roaster that had
Mhm.
that in the past 7 years and it's one of those drive-through. So they roast their coffee and then they bring it through. Opened
Mm.
two locations in the same town of 30,000, and now has a small roast and toast that does coffee in the morning, cocktails at night, and they're crushing it. And they're not on their social media like taking professional
That's the
photos and
whole
shit.
thing. That's the whole thing. It's like, it's, I can't explain it, but it's like the message starts to like infiltrate, and then everyone just fucking buys into it. And then everyone's paying people to teach them how to do it. But it's just one way, right? One way is being an influencer with beautiful pictures and doing that. There's a multiple thousands of other ways to do it. Like,
Right?
and that's what I've learned by being someone who has bought into all of that shit and who has bought, literally paid money to learn all of these things. And I've worked with, over 1,000 clients at this point, right? Like between
Right.
my programs, and I have seen people be successful with every strategy out there.
Mm-hmm. It's like
But
basing our industry on yeah, I get
But
it.
that's why I say there really is only one way to be successful, and it's your way.
Yeah.
And that's the challenge because most coaches won't teach you how to find your own way. They only teach you how to do it the way that worked for them.
Right. Like
So,
it just,
but we're rewriting that,
yeah,
and there's lots
exactly.
of people, probably people listening who like y'all get it too. And you're like,
I want to do it my way.
yes, yeah. Listen, it takes courage.
Yeah.
It
And
takes courage, but
it's
so
like,
worth it.
and it goes back to finding those mentors that are going to carry you along this
Yeah.
way, like help you move forward in it. And I often think about like, there's no quick fix. It's all about
Mm.
exploration and getting messy and really, but it is about like really trusting yourself.
Yeah. You have to. And that's it. Like, we have to commit to that. And the more that we trust, like in the beginning, when you really make you from a place of resolve and conviction, and I'm going to trust myself, and this is my path, every fear is going to come up to the surface. It's just how it works. But it's because we have to choose to trust ourselves in the face of every single fear.
That we've been told that we don't have the capability of doing as women, or,
Yeah.
we've been taught that these are things that we should be doing. Before we wrap up,
Yeah.
I just was thinking about you have to really want to share your gifts. You have to be an entrepreneur, you have to be to the core wanting this. You cannot half-ass entrepreneurism.
No, 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 you
And I
can't.
think a lot of people are like, I want the time of financial freedom. But then when they figure out that they have to do shit, they're like, well, can't I just manifest new clients in? Yeah. But
Maybe. I don't know. Hasn't worked
it's
for
like,
me.
you got to take action. Like you have to take action. You have
Yeah.
to prospect. But I think that too many people are not driven by entrepreneurism. They're driven by desperation for the time of financial freedom. And that's not going to work.
Yes. You're so right. You're so right. I will say this, and maybe I've said this before. Until I hit a financial level of success in my business, I didn't have as much energy to actually be in service because I was spending so much of my energy in I have to make this work. And so that's something that I'm really working with my clients and with the success codex is like we're tying everything back to service. Now sometimes service can be kind of like a platitude or like even be like a little self-righteous, but I'm not talking about that where I'm going to serve. It's really tapping back in exactly like you said, like the deep desire to share your
Yeah.
gifts with the world.
Let's talk about that on the next episode.
Okay. All right, let's do
Do
it.
it. Okay.
Let's do it.
So y'all chime in to the next episode of the Cosmic Valkyrie podcast. Until then, have fun.
Ta-ta.